We are going to determine if this argument is valid or invalid. We have to first break it down into P's and Q's. The trick is, again, make sure that your P and Q and how many letters you need is not compound, meaning does not have ands, ors. Also, it does not contain negation. Oh, that was lucky. He says hi. Because that makes it a lot harder. So if it starts to rain, the game will be delayed. It starts to rain. Therefore, the game will be delayed. We keep hearing a couple phrases over and over again, which is our highlights for our P and Q. So let me use a different color so it stands out a little bit more. So if we have the phrase, it starts to rain as P, and we have the phrase, the game will be delayed as Q, then the first sentence becomes P implies Q. The second sentence is just P, it starts to rain, and the conclusion, therefore, Q, the game is delayed. This is a very classic format called Modus Ponens, and we'll see how Modus Ponens is always a certain type of form when it's all done. Now, the way we make our truth table is that these are the premises which we need to and together, and it has to imply the conclusion. So I'm going to write it above because I need our space. We're going to need to say that P implies Q, the first premise, and P, the second premise, implies Q, the conclusion. So that pretty much gives us our headings. This pretty much and also takes us back a couple sections to when we first did a truth table. And what we're looking for is we need a tautology. So when we do our final column here, it has to all be true. We have 2 letters. Because we have 2 letters, that means we need 4 rows, 2 squared. So let me make our rows here. So we start with our basic letter, P and Q. And from left to right, we need P implies Q. And then we can put together the left-hand side of the if-then, P implies Q and P. And then we can put together the entire thing, P implies Q and P implies Q. Awesome. Let's fill this in. Again, first 2 columns you should be very comfortable with by now. Half and half, and then alternate. The next column, if P then Q, we're just going to go right for it here. Remember, only when true implies false is false. Every other instance is true. Okay. P implies Q is the third column. P is the first column. So now we're going to AND these together. So doing this a little more advanced, I'm not highlighting columns anymore as I did in previous videos. You should be very, very comfortable at this point. So looking at the first and third columns and ANDing them together, we'll have true, false, false, false. So again, that was the first and third columns. Now we will take the fourth column, which is this right here, and we're going to imply the second column, which is this right here. This is where order does matter. So you know what, for funsies, just to make sure, I'll be nice. So we're going to have orange imply purple. So look at the orange column and then look at the purple column. So true implies true is true. False implies false is still true. False implies true is still true. And false implies false is still true. Notice we have a tautology. Boop. Which means that this argument is valid. If we did not get a tautology, then we conclude that it's a fallacy. So if there's any F's, any falsehoods in the last column there, we say the argument is invalid or a fallacy. So anything of this format, P, if P, then Q, P, therefore Q, is always a valid argument.